So our first topic today is going to be how files are organized on a computer. It's not something we think about too much today because it's gotten much easier to find our files no matter where they are on a computer due to better search technologies. Most operating systems these days have some kind of search built into them, and to find a file you just start typing its name somewhere in your operating system, and the operating system will pop up the best results for you. But in reality, files are stored somewhere on your hard drive, and the computer itself has an organizational structure, and that's what we're talking about today. So let's start with a really simple example that's probably pretty intuitive for all of you guys as students. So here's the scenario. It's a brand new semester, and so you make a new folder. Here's our new folder specifically to hold all of this semester's work, and we name that folder Fall. Now you're taking multiple classes, so inside the Fall folder you make more folders, one for each class you're taking. So here we make a CS 170 folder because you're taking a computer science class. You're also taking physics, you're taking a Spanish class, and last but not least, you're taking a math class. So now you have a little bit more organization to your files. You have a folder for each of your classes, and then inside of those folders you may add more and more folders and more files as the semester goes on. For example, you may have a Homework 1 folder and a Homework 2 folder for CS 170. You may have a lab report for your physics course here. You may have some other files for your Spanish and math folders. I'm not going to draw all these out. And so on and so forth. We'll put a small Java file here in our Homework 1 directory so we could talk about this. Now this is a diagram of what we would call a directory hierarchy or a folder hierarchy. Each directory here will have what we call a parent directory. So in this case, if we look at just a small portion of our directory hierarchy here, we have what are called parent folders, and then the subfolders, or the folders that are inside that parent, are called the child folders, or the children. So in this case, Fall is the parent folder, and CS 170, Physics, Spanish, and Math are all child folders. If we look at another small section here, we see that that relationship is still the same. If we look at this section over here, in this case, CS 170 is going to be the parent folder, while Homework 1 and Homework 2 are the children, or the child folders. So this is just a way of describing relationships amongst these folders that we created. Now in computer science, we generally don't refer to them as folders. The file folder itself was just a metaphor, very much like the concept of the desktop, that helped early personal computer users understand this file organization from the computer's point of view. What we actually call these in computer science is we refer to these as directories. So if you hear me use the term directory, really that's the same thing as a folder. Right? It's just a containing way of organizing your files and your folders. So we refer to this entire diagram here and this entire structure as a directory hierarchy. You may also hear this referred to as a directory tree, even though it's an upside down tree. It's smaller at the top and then it gets leafy at the bottom. So in computer science, our trees are upside down. So you may be asking yourself, what about the very top directory? What about this Fall directory? Can it have a parent? And that's a great question, and we'll talk about that when we talk about special directories in a later lecture. But for right now, you're just going to have to start thinking about the organizational scheme of a computer as being this directory hierarchy. Now, the other key piece of terminology for this lecture is when we talk about navigating through the directory hierarchy. What we talk about is we talk about moving up the directory hierarchy when we're talking about going from a child folder to a parent folder. So in this case, if we are in, for example, our homework 2 folder, and I talk about moving up the directory hierarchy, what that means is we're moving up to a parent level, perhaps to CS170, and then farther up to the fall folder, or the fall directory that we made. So that's what we call moving up the directory hierarchy. The other part is obviously moving down the directory hierarchy. So in this case, we're talking about moving from a parent to a child, or to a subfolder. So if we're in the fall folder already, and I say we want to move down into another directory, I'm talking about moving down into either the CS170, the physics, the Spanish, or the math folder. So we're talking about going down from a parent to a child. So the key concepts we've talked about today is just this overall structure of organizing files and directories in our computer, and we call that usually a directory hierarchy or a file system. We also talked about the relationships amongst different directories and how we can classify those relationships as either a parent or a child directory. And then we talked a little bit about navigation, either moving up or down throughout this directory hierarchy, which is a concept we'll need later on. But for now, just start thinking about your computer, how you organize your folders, your directories, your files, and how you can apply this concept of a directory hierarchy to your own computer.